Yeah, it was a whirlwind. It was kind of amazing, and the timing of it. Obviously, you have one game left, and Jeffrey spoke today, talked about getting 6 more days to interview candidates and get the jump start on people. But come on, that doesn't. I mean, if you think about some of the candidates, really that points only toward one, and that's Adam Gase in Chicago, because everybody else, whether it's Sean McDermott, Josh McDaniels, Hugh Jackson,
can't interview anyway.
They're all they're kind of busy right now. So, and they're going to be busy. So you're going to have to wait for those guys anyway. Something went down. I think it all goes back to the Monday press conference. Chip Kelly's insistence that it's sort of deflection, that he wasn't the general manager. He never really wanted that job. It was the owner's decision. I think that got Jeffrey Lurie angry. They had the meeting. Chip Kelly was not apologetic, and we got to where we are. And the most interesting point to me was that Jeffrey did not, according to him, give Chip Kelly the option to stay on without personnel control. He said that was never on the table. And Chip, he also said, he confirmed Chip did not fight for his job. So I think that tells you a lot about both sides, and that this was a broken marriage, and it was headed for where we are.
Do you think, John, it really started to unravel, now knowing what we now know, going back to that Patriots game when Jeffrey Lurie had the urge to basically take charge, go into that locker room and take it upon himself to motivate the players on the football team? Can you really point to that moment as to really where Jeffrey Lurie kind of was leaning one way here?
I don't know if that was the moment, because they won that football game, and obviously Jeffrey Lurie grew up a fan of the Patriots, and he wants to beat that team more than any other. So if anything, a lot of people, including myself, thought he probably saved his job by winning that game.
Little brownie points there, yeah.
It didn't turn out that way. But Jeffrey, Lurie's a classy guy. He's never going to say things, come out and say what is the real issue. But he intimated the fact, and he coined the term emotional intelligence. And he basically admitted the fact that there's a lot of players in his locker room that don't like the head coach. There's a lot of people in that building who don't like the head coach. And the bottom line is Chip Kelly didn't get along with people. And I think that was the biggest issue, far greater than even the personnel problems and the coaching issues. I think the bottom line is you didn't have any allies in that building.
John, when you look at it here, it's Scott Grayson here with Pete G on the Sports Bash. John McMullen joining us here. When you look at it here, Jeffrey Lurie wasn't very clear about how the GM is going to be structured, or if there is even going to be a GM, or if it's going to be that, as he used the word, collaborated effort between Howie Roseman and Tom Donahoe. How do you see that position unfolding? Will they hire a GM, or is this the structure that Lurie's trying to impose?
No, he clarified after the press conference to us reporters outside that there will be no GM. Howie Roseman is now the de facto GM again, but he's obviously got the title of the Executive Vice President of Football Operations. So basically what happened is Howie Roseman got a promotion when he lost the power struggle. He got a raise, but the promotion was deferred 365 days, basically, because he's the most powerful man in the Eagles organization again. And he's the GM, and Tom Donahoe will run the day-to-day operations of the personnel department, and it'll be a more collaborative effort, as you mentioned, with the new head coach, similar to what it was before the power play, when it was Howie Roseman and Chip Kelly and the personnel people doing everything together. So they're rebooting and going back to the way things were before Chip Kelly won that power play.
So let me ask you then, because I figured that was going to be the answer. That's certainly the way I read what Lurie was kind of indicating in the press conference, that Roseman was going to be that guy. When you look at Howie Roseman and what his track record has been, albeit somewhat of a blurry one at times, Marcus Smith being whether or not that was his pick or not, can he be a guy that can help generate from that position a Super Bowl in this city?
Well, I'll just say this. His record as a personnel guy is better than Chip Kelly. But it's not Ron Wolf. It's not somebody who's
less Oregon guys and Pac-12 guys too there, John.
You remember some of the draft choices before, and they were higher picks, but he went up and he got Fletcher Cox. He drafted Lane Johnson. He turned out to be a very good pick. I believe Chip Kelly pushed him to take Marcus Smith, but that's 50-50. Some people believe that, some people don't. Obviously, the last two number one picks have not worked out at all. I think they're both on Chip Kelly's shoulders. So he's better than Chip, but his record isn't exactly Hall of Fame worthy. So while it's an improvement, and I think the collaboration will be a vast improvement of what we saw over this past year, when you start talking about things like Super Bowls, I don't think Howie Roseman's resume speaks to that. But small steps, and I think it is an improvement.
John McMullen, 973 ESPN.com. Our Eagles insider was live at the press conference today. Jeffrey Lurie spoke. John, we were joking yesterday about the whole thing about adapting to the NFL. You quoted Darwin. I quoted Triple H. You either adapt or you perish. Is that the moral of the story here, John, that Chip Kelly just his refusal to adapt his system, and you coined the term and you use it a lot, he's a slave to his system. Is that really the moral of the story here, John?
Well, I think it's the moral of his story, and the fact that if Chip Kelly wants to succeed in this league, he's got to understand that he's got to make adjustments to the adjustments made to him. I'm still not sure that's the reason he was fired. I from what Jeffrey Lurie said and some of the players, Brandon Graham, Lane Johnson specifically, this guy wasn't – everybody took the high road. They didn't come out and say, this guy's unlikable, he's not relatable. Some of the things you've heard from Brandon Boykin and some of the other disgruntled players that have left, but you get the intimation that he just was not well liked. And I think the bottom line is he upset the one guy he had in this corner, and that's Jeffrey Lurie. And Lurie said, you know what? I kept my former right-hand man in this organization. Think about that, guys. Can you think of one example where the loser of a so-called power play did not leave that organization? Clearly,
and you know what, John?
Jeffrey Lurie,
John, you know what? That speaks to, I think, the insecurity of Jeffrey Lurie, and that he is very easily manipulated, and a lot of people think that Howie Roseman continued to have his ear throughout this entire time, and maybe could be one of the reasons why Chip Kelly got fired.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Howie won in the end, and I compared it today to the tortoise and the hare. I mean, that's what he did. He sat back, and he waited for his opportunity. And he had the ear of he's always had the ear of Jeffrey Lurie from a couple different sources. He was kind of bad-mouthing the job Ed Manowitz was doing. He was fired along with Chip Kelly. And if you look at Howie's history, remember this guy. Think about all the executives that have lost to Howie Roseman over the years, most notably Joe Banner, but also guys like Brian Grigson and Louis Riddick, and on and on and on. These are just the latest two. Chip thought he won, but he didn't win. And, you know, there's quite a few pelts in Howie Roseman's hunting room. He is a shark, and he won again today.
When you look at it, John, as far as where they go next, kind of feeding off what you were just saying about Howie, he's obviously going to be in the room interviewing these guys that are going to be brought in. Does that lead you to believe, strong he appears to have the ear of Jeffrey Lurie, that they will once again go with, we'll say, a coordinator who seems ready to make that next step versus a proven guy like maybe a Sean Payton if he becomes available?
Yeah, I think the Eagles are like a lot of teams in that they want the next big thing, and they want a guy who's younger, anywhere from 40 to 5, who's going to be here for 15, 20 years. That's the best-case scenario. And that's the one thing everyone looks for, and that's why everyone loves Adam Gase, who I think is 38 years old and is already on the fast track to be a head coach in this league. Josh McDaniels still young. Hugh Jackson relatively young. But I think that's their first case. Jeffrey kind of said he wouldn't rule out college coaches, but I would be stunned if they went back into the college rank.
Me too.
I think you can throw that out of the equation. As far as guys like Gruden, I don't think he's leaving Monday Night Football. It seems like every single job opening there's a Gruden rumor. I don't put much stock in it. And Sean Payton, remember, he's got 2 years left on his deal. So if the Saints would have to fire him, I don't think they're going to do that. They would want some draft picks in return to release him. I think his shelf life is probably up in New Orleans, but I don't see him landing in Philadelphia.
All right, John McMullen, our Eagles insider, 973ESPN.com, live at the press conference. Read more of his stuff at 973ESPN.com. John, appreciate the time. Happy New Year to you.
Hey, Happy New Year to you guys.